like
the scent
just
of a
be
clone.
chilling on them.
The
Yeah,
scent
like
cologne.
Yeah,
it'd
be.
That sounds like
That's a romance
I don't know
novel
what
if
it's
I've ever read.
fan fiction.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Incoming transmission from an unknown source. It seems to be urgent. Patching them through. They're calling themselves the HoloNet Marauders.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the HoloNet Marauders podcast. We're going to be talking about Book of Boba today.
yes.
The time has finally come. We
It's
talked
here.
about it on HoloNet Marauders Live a lot, the first 2 episodes. But I'm joined here by my Bombad Daimyos.
Ooh.
Can you
Jam
have
the
more than
Jedi.
one daimyo? Yes, hello.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Jam the Jedi and Marauder Matt.
Hello, I'm Marauder.
Calling you
Matt
by
now.
your proper HoloNet names now.
That's fine.
And we're
That is a
also
very
joined
proper
here.
name.
First off, how you guys doing? Doing solid?
good.
Dude,
Yeah.
doing well.
It's
doing
usually
well.
always good, but you got to check, right? You got to.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk about Book of Boba Fett. It's always a good day when you get to talk about Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah.
Definitely
And we-
weren't talking about Book of Boba Fett right before we got on air, but it's
Well,
good.
for the last
past
2
like 3
weeks.
days, yeah.
We
Anyway.
have possibly the best guest I can imagine to talk about this show so far, because I've been stealing his takes left and right. Not stealing, I've been giving him credit. But Brent, Age of Grogu.
Hey
how's
guys,
it going? Welcome.
how's it going? How you doing, everybody?
Hey,
good to
Brent,
have
welcome
you.
to the show.
Yeah, it's
Long
great to be
time.
here. Yeah,
Longtime friend of the show, but I think it's your first time on here, so
yeah, it is. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. This is cool. What a perfect way to talk about something we all love so much so, which is Boba Fett.
yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking about episode 1 with you on the All New Nerds show with Levi.
Mhm.
Or was that
Yes.
episode 2?
Thank you
Oh
guys.
God,
One.
I think it was both,
It
honestly.
was yeah, yes.
But you've had, your takes have had a lot of big impression on me, and I feel like in our shows I've been like, oh, so Brent said this and this, so might as well just get you on here and have the men
That's
himself
great.
give the
Have
take.
you
Yeah.
say your thoughts instead of
Well,
yours rehashed.
Yeah, I mean, I've always taken my thoughts on anything said through most of the interviews that Dave Filoni and George Lucas have had over the years. There's always these moments way back from the animated shows and everything like that, whenever they did a Rebels Recon or any of that stuff, there was always a moment where Dave Filoni's saying something that's so insightful that it stuck with me. And I started to realize that if I search for these little elements that he is talking about in everything that he does, I can start to understand his thought process and George Lucas's thought process as to why they do something on a very subconscious level. And a lot of people will catch the surface level stuff, but I tend to look deeper where possible. And, sometimes I'm wrong when I'm, calling things out, but there are other times it's left open to your own point of view on how you interpret something. And that's always what George Lucas's philosophy and Dave Filoni's philosophy seem to be.
That's
Yeah,
Star
they do
Wars in
stuff.
general, right?
That's
From
Star Wars in
point of
general.
view.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is just before we get too into the meat of Book of Boba Fett. This is your spoiler warning for episodes 1 and 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. So
Gonna get
episode
quite
1,
meaty.
Stranger in a Strange Land, and episode 2, Tribes of Tatooine. So if you haven't watched it yet, we're gonna talk about it right now. So that was your warning. This
That
is
was your
warning.
warning. So,
So-
Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land, kicked off the series. And I don't know, Brent, I kind of just want you to dive right into it here. Like, what was your impression of this episode? I sort of already know it, but for our audience,
For sure.
yeah.
Going into the episode, the biggest thing I think on everybody's minds was Robert Rodriguez was out there tweeting about this, going, the first 15 minutes is all you've seen in the footage, and it built up this expectation in some people. And for me, I always kind of sat back going, okay, he's saying that everything we've seen in the trailers is, only in the first 15 minutes, which means this last 30 minutes is going to blow us away. And when it didn't happen, it didn't bother me personally. I liked the slow burn on this episode, and there were other people out there who were saying, "Oh, this is not what we were hoping," and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the slow burn. I was fine with it, and I also didn't take to heart the negativity afterwards that people seem to have about why it wasn't such a strong episode. So I thoroughly enjoyed the slow burn on this one, and I did enjoy where it was going.
Yeah. I'm always amazed when people have negative comments after the first episode because of a slow burn. It's chapter 1, episode 1 of a 7-part series.
Yeah.
It's a whole book, not just one chapter. So
The
it's
whole
like,
Book of Boba Fett.
just
that's it.
Stay tuned, guys.
That's
And
it. Yeah,
I saw
It's
someone
chapter of a
tweet.
novel.
They were like, "Oh, back in the day, we had to be continued at the end," and it's like we knew it was going to be.
That's what
continued.
a series is. Excuse me, a series
Right.
We don't
is
need
Correct,
continued.
guys. We
Yeah,
know how many
yeah.
episodes are going to be in this season. We know
Yeah.
we know there's
One-
a next episode coming. We know it's going to be continued. Why do you
One
think
thing
Robert,
that go ahead.
Why do you think Robert Rodriguez said that everything was the first 15 minutes? Everything in the trailer was the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think he just kind of forgot.
I think he got confused.
I think he got excited and part of the hype, and
I think
I think he means
thinking-
like the first few episodes, maybe.
Right.
yeah, oh yeah,
Things are going to have like a major shift like midway through the season, which is like
Yeah.
what we got with Mandalorian. Like
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
Mandalorian, we
Yeah.
only got like the first 4 episodes
yeah.
that were in the trailers. So
yeah,
Think about this as well. Everything that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett trailers has been what's happening in the current time story, which is what happens right after the events of the Mandalorian. We pretty much didn't see like anything specific from Boba's time with the Tuskens in the trailers. So like
We
maybe
saw-
he's referring to like that
Yeah.
15 minutes
Yeah.
is everything of the future story or the current
Yeah.
time story,
That's
not
a
the
good point.
flashback
Yeah.
storyline.
I didn't think of that.
Just work with me on that one. I don't know. I just thought of that right
Yeah.
now because I forgot about
Yeah.
the whole 15-minute thing because
And I
like when the
imagine,
director
like-
says one thing, you never know what's actually going to happen.
yeah.
I imagine he has so much on his plate that he just kind of
Right.
forgot. Like so much probably happens in the final few episodes that
Oh yeah,
the first few episodes are probably not on his mind of
Yeah.
what
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
who knows?
even he doesn't care about the first episode of Book of Boba Fett.
I think that something important as well, which I've like mentioned this variation like on like our streams and whatnot a lot recently, is we have this story that was left off like almost 40 years ago, and we need to tie it up before we can move on to the next thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's exactly what the first episode here was. Is they had to tie up how does he get out of the Sarlacc,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then move on. And I
And
think that for
Boba's
like
long-standing rivalry with Goro from Mortal Kombat.
yeah,
Both of those needed to be squared off before before we do anything else.
the biggest thing is the new Star Wars shows are for fans who have pretty much just watched the movies and possibly also watched the shows. They're not
Yeah.
necessarily fans who are digging really deep into the Legends comics and know all of that backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So at a surface level, it was perfect. They did everything that they were like supposed to. If they answered the question, how did he get out, and what happened to him immediately after.
Yeah.
And for a
to
fan
go-
who like literally would just see Boba Fett like in Return of the Jedi and Empire, he's just a bounty hunter. You don't know that much about him. For if you're just watching movies, who is he? We
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. And so like there's just this built up persona that people have based on Legends, and I feel like this is great that we're actually getting like this take that's here's what he actually is finally.
I'm going to take this even a step back further. I grew up during the time of the original, holiday special. I was 9 years old when that, 8 years old when that show came out, when they showed the first inklings of who Boba Fett was. And that was part of the brilliance, and I think even shock and surprise to even George Lucas from interviews I'd seen him on during the time. There was this element of they built up a mystery character through a single action figure. That action figure was brought to life before The Empire Strikes Back even came out through a piece of animation. That mystery right there sparked a year and a half. Mind you, there was no Twitter, there was no internet, there was nothing. It was purely speculation on people's part in magazines and articles that were about this animated piece of who Boba Fett is, and that left enough chance, enough ability to create this mystery right there, right then, of who is this mystery character. And when George Lucas gave him like 5 lines in the entire film, it deepened that mystery even further because we wanted to know more about this character. And the more we wanted to know, the less we got, which became even more mysterious. And then, of course, he dies.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing, as you said, for 40 years from there. So that mystery is still there as to who that character was. And I love where they're taking where this character is going.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's so funny to think like George Lucas killed Boba Fett off in
Mhm.
Return of the Jedi, and then he turns around and is like, oops. Like, because everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Wait
Oh,
a
yeah.
minute, wait,
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on.
yeah.
He just killed him off.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
he and you can probably guess that Jango Fett and Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones
Mhm.
is like a direct response to, sorry kiddos, I killed Boba Fett. Here's Jango.
Yes, yeah.
Here's Blue
Here's the
Boba
And all these
backstory.
clones.
Yeah.
Here's some
Yes.
more stuff on Boba Fett. But yeah, you're right.
Hmm.
Even as far back as like 78, they were
Yeah.
introducing Boba Fett in like parades.
Yes.
You had
Yes.
a
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The
character walking
footage.
next to Darth Vader,
Yep.
in the streets, and everybody's like, "Who is this guy?"
I love that variation of Boba because he has like the Jag eyes like on his like helmet, which like Rex has on his. But
Yeah.
then they never
yeah.
translated it over. I think that
Yeah.
it's just so funny to see Boba with that. But
It's cool to see
Yeah.
under the helmet, the Disney Plus
Yes,
thing.
Yeah,
that's what I was about to say.
Some
It was
cool stuff
fantastic.
there.
If you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, see it. It is watch it. It's incredible. There was some footage that I've never seen that was in that, and I've seen a lot of footage over the years as behind the scenes stuff. And there was some stuff in there that blew me away. And there's always that's the great thing about anything Star Wars. There's always a piece of footage we still haven't seen yet. That's something somewhere that someone has got on an
Speaking of
8mm
which-
film or.
Very
Yeah.
good transition from that to back to the show.
oh,
We
right,
get,
yeah,
we get
sure.
this unused footage possibly
Yeah.
from Attack of the Clones, which we just
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yes, yes.
What do you guys think is up with that? Is it footage they never use? Is it new footage? I know there's a lot of movie magic they can put into
I
these
think it's a
things.
mix.
It's part, yeah. It's
Yeah, it's a mix, right?
The mix.
it's the wide shot we have of Boba looking into Jango's helmet is
Mhm.
from Attack of the Clones. It's unused
Yep.
footage. It's an unused long shot. And then
It's
the
so cool.
shot of him over the shoulder with his face in the mask or
Mhm.
the helmet is new footage with like a digital.
No, wait, stop.
Oh.
Don't say
What do you
digital.
know?
Don't say digital. Why did they hire a deep fake guy to do this? This is the
Oh my
first
god, I
deep
forgot
fake.
about that.
This is the first deep fake we've ever seen. Was Daniel Logan's, from what I've seen on his Twitter account, seems to record that this shot over the shoulder shot, never was never shot as extra footage. But if you're getting just a kid and you map his face over, it is the best deep fake we might have seen yet.
Huh.
That and the one in we'll get to chapter 2, but there's also one in
Right.
chapter 2 of the window reflection.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Very nice.
So it's better than the Luke Skywalker digital, and that's where it's like, and of course it's all digital, but it's like the deep fake makes you feel like this is really Daniel Logan deleted footage, doesn't it? More than this is Luke Skywalker with a mapped over face.
And to
I
do it
totally
through a
forgot.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
No one's talking about the deep fake of Daniel Logan right now. This could be our very first. I could be wrong. I'm just going off of my own personal. I want to see the
Yeah.
behind the scenes now.
I
but
totally
if it
forgot
is,
that. I totally
that's
forgot
it.
that they hired
Yeah.
the guy who did like the really good ones.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So this is loosely. This is our thought. This isn't
This is-
confirmed.
that's no. It's speculation still, but until
yeah.
they. But if it is, it's damn good.
Yeah.
damn good ones too.
Yeah.
Yes, so is Camino. I was
Yes.
just gonna say,
Oh.
I love how we literally just get like the one shot of he's having just like the little like dreams and flashbacks of Camino, and my heart stops like every time I see Camino anyway now.
Yeah, same.
Especially
Yeah.
seeing it in like live action as these images are, but like just like seeing like the little glimpses of it in that episode, it's good and it's just very cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
agree.
the Geonosis shot, like the CG that they used on the battle droids in the background was like
Yeah.
20 times better, up to what it would
Yeah.
be nowadays.
And the Reek scooted over a little bit.
Moved
Yeah,
scooted
a little
over a
bit.
little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
in your
whatever.
shot. Let me
Honestly, people are complaining about that.
Weird.
Then there's more issues out there than
I'm
complaining about
baffled
the
why that's like
weakness.
such a big thing. I don't know.
That's crazy.
And I think it was someone I saw comment on Twitter. It also said, this also is, could be from the perspective of what Boba Fett remembers, and your memory from 40 years ago or whatever can be very different to what it was like in the actual moment.
Yeah.
So you
He's
remember
not lying
thinking,
in the
Yeah.
back to two.
exactly.
Remember that shot?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I remember being in this arena with battle droids, and because it was a different shot, it wasn't the exact same shots. The idea could be, very well. Again, this goes into that deeper perspective that George Lucas and Dave Filoni do. This could be very well not just an image of a copy of the image, but this is from his point of view. Again, it's always from the point of view,
It
as
goes
to
back
what he
the-
remembers.
It goes back to the recurring line from like so many characters, but there's always truth in legends.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and memories, and it's gonna be
Yes.
different. So
Always a fun
I
line.
love that.
Yeah.
I'll bring that up anytime I can. I just gotta throw it out there.
Yeah.
So we get I can't remember chapter 1 as much as I did a week ago, because chapter 2 left such an
Chapter
imprint on
2
me.
fried
Yes,
my
yeah.
brain.
Yeah, I should have
Chapter one
recapped.
feels
I
like
see-
forever ago.
It's okay.
We
it's
see
okay.
the Sarlacc escape that Jamie
Yeah.
mentioned a little while ago.
It was
and-
like a
disgusting.
horror movie.
It's
Like
It
I,
was
I,
great.
I
It was
like.
great.
I don't like horror movies, but like I love how terrifying like this was. Like it was
The
you felt
stormtrooper
it.
down
Like,
there,
yeah,
yeah.
just the one
I
dude
get,
and
I get
the
I get claustrophobic, and just during that like 30 seconds being in there, I felt very claustrophobic just from that with vines and tentacles and whatever
It was just,
around.
feel
It was
it,
great.
yeah.
It was
absolutely.
way more clustered than I thought it was going to be. I thought the Sarlacc. I always pictured the Sarlacc's belly being like this big, wide open area.
empty
Yes, yes,
I always,
yeah,
I don't know why.
That's
Yeah.
not how his stomach looks.
yeah,
Okay, look.
yeah,
it is.
Maybe.
yes,
You know,
yes, yeah.
you don't
How we
know.
know.
Definitely not a Sarlacc stomach.
Right.
No.
Well, yeah,
but yeah,
no,
I
definitely
loved how
not.
terrifying and like you had like the pressure inside, and then just the shot of the hand. Like that was just so cool. Just like classic.
Pat-
The
That was
use
cool.
of the stormtrooper too, which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did he get there? We'll
Yeah,
never
and-
know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Poor
But
guy
I will.
stumbled into the
But that's
Sarlacc.
that's the
Why does it
amazing thing,
matter?
though. Why does it matter? Because I want to know that story too. Again, this goes back to what I've always said. The character, the droid number 6 in the background. I want to know his story. I want to know this stormtrooper's story. I want to know the fact that he was searching for these 2 droids and he slipped and tripped, broke his neck, fell into the Sarlacc, and that was it. I just, it's part of that everlasting element of Star Wars in general. Of it's timeless. It makes it timeless.
And it plays into the idea that Filoni and Favreau were trying to push with the Mandalorian, where it's like playing with your action figures.
That's it.
You'll
Yes.
You'll just pull a stormtrooper from your bin,
Completely.
and he's in the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah,
Boba
that's
Fett's
it.
trying to
Yes.
escape.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
It's reusing old assets, in a really interesting and engaging manner. And I love
Totally.
that.
Yeah. No, completely.
You know what was a big highlight for this episode that was also a reused asset?
Say it.
Max Rebo.
Max Rebo.
I didn't want to jump ahead too much.
baby.
But
Yeah.
in
I
the
was gonna
cantina.
say let's jump ahead to the current
Sure.
story. So the sanctuary, Garza Fwip.
Well, yeah.
Fwip.
Boba is sitting on his throne, meets all these people that are coming to see him. He sees the Major Domo from the mayor.
Yeah.
I thought he was
Brings
great.
him a Wookiee pelt
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
to add back to his armor.
Interesting.
He had Wookiee scalps in his armor in Empire Strikes Back. He should
Mm-hmm.
do that again, especially now with Black Chrysanthemum coming in. You gotta get
No,
that.
He wants
no,
to
We'll get
no.
there.
He wants to
We'll
make
get
friends
there.
with him. But
Yeah.
from
I
there,
know.
from there we go to the sanctuary, which
Go to
is
the sanctuary.
probably the coolest cantina I've seen, at least on,
Yeah.
on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah, I
place
didn't-
in the galaxy with air conditioning.
Yeah.
palm
Why
trees
didn't
and
you
It
put
everything.
feels like it, doesn't it? You walk in there and you feel
Yeah.
much cooler.
It's just
Yeah.
like
Just
breath
like
of
what's
fresh
like an
air.
Oasis. It's perfect. They got
Yeah.
palm trees.
It's almost tropical. Yeah, there's a tropical
Yeah.
interior.
The
to
drinks
this
look
oasis.
awesome. Yeah.
It's an oasis in the
It
desert.
is,
yeah.
yeah.
Qui-Gon missed
Yeah.
out.
He
Qui-Gon
did.
likes to get a
Yeah.
stiff drink. Obi-Wan
That's it.
would have loved that place.
Oh,
Yeah.
We
man.
go to Mos
wasn't
Espa,
open.
they
Oh,
missed
yeah.
out.
It wasn't
Yeah,
open yet.
it wasn't open yet. Yeah.
And of
But yeah, we-
course, there's the droid card dealer, so like the Rex unit,
Rex.
like
Yeah.
like
Yep.
DJ Rex and
Oh,
Pirate
yes.
Rex. So like I loved
Yep.
him, and he has like the little like visor and everything. It's just
Yeah,
Which is
I mean,
a
if
little card
if
dealer.
you've been to
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge, of course, you see Rex in Galaxy's Edge,
Yeah,
being the
yeah.
DJ and everything, which is cool. I like the one droid that's playing the drums.
Oh yeah,
I think that's great.
Yeah.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
I need a figure of
Playing
him
drums.
ASAP.
Yes, yeah,
They should
But-
just do a set that is the droids of the sanctuary. So it's the
I would
card
buy it.
dealer Rex, the drummer,
Oh, yeah.
the waiter.
Yeah, the way
sure,
droids.
absolutely, absolutely.
Whatever
Boba-
droids wash down the Gamorreans, we don't know.
Yeah, I love how I love how Garza literally offers, oh, would you like your Gamorreans
Yes,
fed
what's
and
that?
hosed down?
He hosed down. That's great. That's such a
They're standing in the back just like,
And they're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can go with the good hosing down.
yeah,
and
yeah,
then Boba's like, no, and they're like,
yeah. yes.
But he does get his helmet cleaned,
Oh yeah.
which also
Well,
is involved.
it
Cleaned,
Dirty
cleaned,
clean.
or cleaned.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because money is very dirty. You know, how many people
Mm-hmm.
are touching that? You don't want to put that in your helmet.
And that was another detail you pointed out for me, Brent. That we eventually learn that the Twi'lek that runs the sanctuary, I'm forgetting her name at the moment.
Garza.
Yeah.
Garza Whip.
Garza Whip.
Garza
Garza
Whip.
Whip. Spider-Man. I don't
Yeah.
know. She's kind of in on it. We don't know who exactly she may be working for, the mayor, the Hutts, which we'll get to, but they fill Boba's helmet up with credits. And I love that you pointed out that was an intentional move, that he couldn't put his helmet on once they left.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
If
you got that much money, you don't have pockets to put all that money into right there and then, so you've just become literally defenseless on the head region of your body, if that's an armor. And
our other new theory that you mentioned the other day was the helmet. Maybe the helmet is why he couldn't use his jetpack when they do get jumped by the wind assassons with the shields outside.
Wasn't my theory, but
I'll give it to you.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Nice theory, Brent.
But that was a big question people had, and I'm like, oh yeah, like it's always been a thing. Cobb Vanth puts it on before he takes off, but obviously you're going to put it on before you go into battle. Django put it on before he took off on Geonosis. So maybe whoever had this theory, credit to them. I don't know who it was, but I really like that you need the helmet on to use the jetpack. Maybe the controls are like face
I was
scanning.
under the impression that he tries using his fire and it backfires within the thing, and so I was under the impression the moment he did that, he was like, oh no, I can't do anything else, because doing like the
that's possible.
Well,
if he tried to explode himself out of there, he wouldn't have gotten very far.
And he could have.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
A bunch of people with shields in front of him, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Let me shoot you with a missile."
Well, even that act alone of, again, it goes back to you are defenseless without your helmet on. The fire backflared on top of Fennec and Boba. So you've got nothing protecting your head at that point, but he'd already dropped the helmet, with the coins at that point. So you create this defenselessness about yourself. You have to protect your body if you're being under attack, and that always is where it went to it. As for the whole kind of, jetpack thing, we do see Mandalorian do this in season 2 and hit a few buttons. It doesn't mean that Boba's makeup and outfit is different, but I've never thought about the fact that the helmet was connected to his jetpack as an operational mechanism. So
Yeah, good point with that, because when that one guy steals it, when he stole Grogu, he just goes flying. With
That's
his
it.
jetpack
Yeah,
over there.
that's
So,
it. Yes.
He should use the helmet as a weapon. He's no stranger to using weapons as helmets. He blew his window up with Django's old helmet. He should have just chucked the helmet at someone.
So that goes from my end. I do have to admit, and this is not something I thought about till after people started talking about it, this fight was a relatively weak fight in comparison.
It was weird.
It was a weird kind of and I do admit that it is not the strongest fight sequence we've seen in the live action series to date.
Yeah, not everything needs to be.
No, not everything needs to be.
It looked cool with being surrounded by those cool shields, which we haven't really seen.
Yeah.
So that was a cool feature. And then I'm intrigued by these wind assassins.
Nightwind.
Nightwings.
The Nightwings.
I got some of it.
I'm intrigued by this wind.
Nightwing assassins.
The Nightwind assassins.
The Nightwind.
We don't know. I mean, maybe they're just a thing of their own.
Yeah.
They kind of remind me now. I don't know, Brent, if you've played the Elder Scrolls video games. They kind of remind me of the Dark Brotherhood from that.
Yeah.
We were calling them
the outfits and everything.
We were calling them Krang's foot soldiers or something like that from Ninja
Turtles.
They also look like that.
Yeah. You can do your Ninja Turtles reference. You can do your Skyrim reference. Pick your group of assassins. That's what they're like.
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone was sort of like, oh, the Crimson Dawn because they're red, or they're the Red Key Raiders because they're red. But I'm starting to think they're just a hired group of assassins.
No, they definitely are.
Like a brotherhood or something.
So I'm not sure they're really going to play much of a part in this anymore, unless they come back and try to assassinate them again.
Yeah, and they're not very good, are they?
No, they're not very good.
They're not very good. But I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I'm starting to think they'll keep leveling up. So they tried the Nightwind Assassins. They'll now Black Chrysanthemum. We'll get to that, and then maybe something else. So
Black Chrysanthemum is the final boss. I think Black Chrysanthemum is the.
Oh no, there's one more up there. There's one more. Where's one more up there?
I don't think so.
I think so. Yeah, we'll get there.
Before we jump into, I feel like we can move on to episode 2 in a moment. But before we do, I gotta do my 2 little call outs from when they're walking around Masas. But also, we have to talk about the Tuskens really quickly. exactly. But
we'll mesh that in with episode.
Yeah,
when
I've got one other thing I want to mention too.
Okay, cool.
Bacta, yeah.
Cool. When they're walking around Mos Espa, two things. First of all, Fennec and Boba walk by a guy who's wearing Cobb Vanth's shirt. I need to mention this because I spotted it immediately. It's Dexter in the background. He has a blue vest over the red shirt, and I was like...
I recall that new reaction video. I was laughing.
Yeah,
and shout out to our friends at MIT. We don't have any friends at MIT.
So
they're in our
this
backyard.
is the other one. So so the HoloNet Marauders are Boston based, and in this episode they had the little like droids that kind of look like dogs. So those are actual robots in real life from MIT's, from Boston Dynamics, and so it was very, very cool to see that. A lot of people are like put off by them because of how like real they look. And they do look kind of terrifying, but like I'm just like so excited to like
Wars, maybe?
So if they literally took real life robots who like do things like go into like dangerous areas where people can't and like do the tasks and then come back and report back. So real life robots put into the Star Wars universe, they just toss some like wings on them, and I just love to see them. And all those robots are called that model is called the Spot. Like a dog called Spot. So I'm affectionately calling the droids the SPOT units until we get an actual name. And I hope that they actually are called that. That's not confirmed as well, but SPOT units, and I need one.
I just want to see what they're used for in the Star Wars universe. And again, that goes back to every character, every back character has a story, a purpose, and I now want to know that purpose.
These ones are so funny because they had like 3 or 4 of them, and there's a girl just like poking them along with a stick. They look like a flock of chickens.
I'm sure they're like shepherd dogs or something.
Yeah, like some sort of
could
herding
be.
dogs.
Like they could be,
Maybe.
Or something.
Yeah, they could be protector animals, robots as well for traveling across the desert and stuff too,
I would assume their function is something similar to what it is in real life, in which they go places people can't to do dangerous things or herding or something.
Oh yeah.
So
they can't do much, but they creep you out. So
Yes.
if you're
They
approaching
do,
and they're all crawling, they're all scuttling at you. You're like, sorry.
if you feel like it, and like I'm not gonna like direct everyone to watch these videos, but if you go on the Boston Dynamics like YouTube channel, there are a lot of really fun videos, but it might freak you out because like they are robots walking like people and walking like dogs, and it's very, very cool to see, but it might freak you out.
I was actually working in a place this past year, a couple of months ago, and they actually had one of those robots. It was not active; it was just sitting there in charge mode. But this thing's like set on the ground, folded up, in charge mode, and just looking like I couldn't take my eyes off it. Unfortunately, I couldn't take any footage at the time because I was in a film studio place. But just looking at it, I was going, "Wow, this is really cool." I would be scared the freaking living daylights out of it if this thing just got up and started walking around. It would be unnerving. It'd be unnerving.
Full speed at you.
Full Terminator on you, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're living in the future.
Be nice to your electronics, everybody. That's all I gotta say.
Before
Absolutely.
Chapter 2, Brent, I know you had a
point
about the Bacta, right?
Yeah, so I had this point about the Bacta tank. When Fennec Shan comes up, she pulls Boba Fett out of the Bacta tank before it's actually had the chance to do its thing. And people say, why is Boba Fett so weak in this episode compared to a few weeks ago when he was battling, stormtroopers on a planet somewhere out there kind of thing. And the reality is, I haven't read any specific detail yet. I've tried searching for it. What is the effects of Bacta when you are pulled out in mid-rejuvenation? And the idea that I personally feel like it is it's like a bit of a cancer treatment. You're getting, the moment you're on something, if you are pulled out of something in the middle of it, you're not going to be at your full strength anyway. And I got a feeling, and again, I don't have any evidence, I don't have any proof, but this is what it felt like. The reason why Boba Fett was not at his full game was the fact, and they specifically, the mechanical voice says, back to rejuvenation, interrupted. And because it was interrupted, it means it didn't have the chance to do its full thing. We also know that when Luke Skywalker came out of the Bacta tank, he was in a hospital bed for a period of time there before he jumped in the speeder and took out the Snowwalkers in Empire Strikes Back. So the same thing. Yeah. So it gives an excuse
in the bombing, and it's the same kind of thing. She has to do Bacta treatments, and it's like a scheduled daily thing. And she's in the hospital for a while, and it's not just like a quick fix like people.
That's it. Yeah, or that you could be pulled out of it halfway through and continue normally. So I always took the fact that the reason why Boba Fett was never that strong was the fact that the Bacta just hadn't had, he was in the middle of, I would call it Bacta sickness, but Bacta repair, whatever you want to call it. I feel like that is a main, that's it. It feels like it was an obvious purpose, and it was definitely, they wouldn't have had that line said by the machine itself if it didn't mean that you had to connect your brain to going, he was pulled out in the middle of this rejuvenation cycle, which means that he may not be at his full strength. And it doesn't matter how many years later you go into Bacta, it still would be like a cancer treatment. It's going to knock you down before you get better. And that's the closest anatomy, and I don't mean to, put that out there as, cancer treatment patients or anything like that. It just purely it's what it feels like it could be related to. So it'll be fun to see if that's ever explored in future books and novels and whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a great theory, yeah.
I would love for them to like really dive more into the new canon, all of this about Bacta, because like I'm not familiar with like what Bacta may have been like in like legends and whatnot, but in everything now, Bacta is just kind of seen as like the end all be all like miracle drug.
That's it.
Like,
yeah.
If we look quickly at like the High Republic, Bacta is just becoming a thing at that point in time, and so like we're getting the foundation of what really is Bacta and what is this treatment. So like it's like a little lore thing that like they're probably not going to go too far into, but like having like the one-off, these are the different kinds of treatments, and like this is how one person has been treated with it. I think that's really cool and something that like we wouldn't necessarily like expect out of Star Wars, but it makes it just feel more real. It makes it feel more of a this is how you can like relate with it, because like pretty much every single person in the world like knows someone who like has been like affected by cancer or some sort of illness like that, and so like having that actual reality to it, it's just like, okay, this makes a lot more sense.
And it makes a lot of sense the more I think about it, because Boba gets winded and knocked down in that fight, no pun intended, by the assassin.
He goes down very quickly.
And he goes to the Gamorreans and he's like, get me back to the Bacta tank. So like that's on his mind. He didn't finish his treatment, so he had to
that's it.
So it makes sense.
And again, it's like, in everything that's written in there is dropped as a you can take it from your own point, your own perspective, your own point of view, and that's my point of view. It seems like if you search hard enough and think hard enough about what they are saying, they are trying to explain to you right there as to why Boba Fett is not like badass and kicking everybody down the way he should be. Anyway,
I mean, with that, I guess we'll move on to chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
The Tribes of Tatooine, and we didn't talk about a lot of the Tusken Raider stuff from chapter 1, but I guess we'll kick it off with that going into chapter 2, because 45 minutes of this 53-minute episode were with the Tusken Raiders, I believe.
Yes.
So
about
after the Sarlacc, Boba was, I thought he was going to be rescued, but he was kind of taken prisoner by the Tusken Raiders, and then he's kept there. And this is all in chapter 1, obviously. He goes and searches for the watermelon things, the black melons.
Black melons.
Watermelon,
which we're going to name. Yes.
Right. And then
they probably wanted to call them watermelons, but then they're like, no, that's actually a thing.
We'll make them black and we'll call them black melons. But they also look like sea anemones, don't they? They
sort of do,
yeah.
While at the Tusken camp, they focus on this kid a lot, and they still do into chapter 2.
Yeah.
Boba eventually saves the kid. The Rodian Slimo dies because of the four-armed guy from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, voiced by Sam Witwer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Rodian,
Wait, the Rodian, not the four-armed guy.
The Rodian, yes, the Rodian, yes.
Yeah.
Goro.
Boba gains respect with the Tusken camp because he saved the kid. He could have just ran away or did whatever. And he's handed the black melon, and that's
he not only saved the kid, but he straight up kills whatever like that beast was, and so the Tuskens are like, oh, this guy is a lot tougher than we thought he was.
But even cooler though is that he gave credit to the kid killing the beast, and the village elder definitely knew better than that. And that's why we get that moment at the end where he offers him the black melon, because it's like, this is a respect thing now. It's not just a matter of you're our prisoner. That's that moment where the whole respect thing came in between the tribe and Boba Fett.
And this Tusken tribe is a lot different than any other one we've seen. Their outfits are different. They've got like these black cloth.
A lot more black
tans.
and not just the tan.
Yes, yeah.
And
I love to see that. It's something one thing that The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett have done so far is we never expected to get this much information about Tuscan culture until it was literally given to us, and we're like, you know what, this is great. And it's we'll touch more on it, but everything that we're getting from the Tuskens is just fantastic because I never would have imagined that Star Wars would have I never would have thought that Star Wars had the balls to actually dive into indigenous culture and try their best to actually like do that representation. Not even like that, but also diving into sign language and diving into those kind of disabilities and just different ways of communication. And there's just so much with the Tuskens, and I like live for every single minute of it.
Yeah. That's what blew me away in Mandalorian was when they first started doing the sign language and that connection. And again, it goes back to another thing I've said the past week or two is the fact that the Tuskens are very similar to the Mandalorian people in certain ways because the Mandalorians do split off and create their own separate, not tribes, but their own separate factions. And they are very similar to the Tuskens, where there are individual tribes that separate and have their own points, perspectives and their own traditions and stuff like that. And they are very similar to the indigenous cultures of America and Australia as well.
Yeah, one thing that I find like wicked interesting as well is with like there are like the different like groups of the Tuskens in episode 2 at one point. The Tusken leader, the chief, I'm not sure what his full title is, but he says to Boba something like the other tribes get by killing, and so they like were like, hey, we're not necessarily like that. We will if we have to, but it's interesting that they made that a point to have that align. Is the other tribes did this. And then Boba's like, well, hey, you got these resources now. And this was after he took the speeders and whatnot. So it's just great. I love these guys so much.
Yeah, they're great. And the costume design, too, is fantastic on these. How do you make a Tusken feel like a Tusken, but totally give them a complete brand new overlook on their, from neck down? Yeah. And so great.
It reminds me of, like, the Kylo Ren Force Awakens outfit. I don't know.
The way it has
like the ripped up black cloth and the layering on the arms.
And it's funny because...
But we all know, like, I'm always...
Well, yeah, you're always thinking of...
He's always but go on.
I think it's interesting how this show kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, like, all the Tuskens before this was just so, like, bland. Like, they were all wearing the same outfit. They all had, like, the same kind of look to them. And now I'm thinking, like, I want to see... blue Tuskens. I want to see green Tuskens. I want to see all these different,
the other tribes.
Yeah, how do they come up with all these different costumes for different tribes and different looks for Tusken?
I want to see a region breakdown of Tatooine now, of which area each of these, who are the Dune Sea Tuskens? Obviously, these guys are the Dune Sea Tuskens. Who are the
ones out near Mos Pelgo.
Yeah, that's it, Mos Pelgo and all that. Yeah. Well, those seem very similar. Again, they are very they're different to the ones that are near Mos Eisley. Mos Eisley Tuskens are obviously very brutal and very, whatever.
Something that I think I mentioned in one of the streams that we did, but something. The whole storyline of Boba with the Tuskens is happening immediately after the events of the Sarlacc, and then time jump 5 years later, the events of the Mandalorian. So I really feel that everything that Boba is doing with the Tuskens right now is setting the stage for everything that will happen in the future. So the Tuskens will be, other tribes as well, will be more willing to actually talk with outsiders.
Communicate. That makes sense.
Well, instead of just point blank shooting at them.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned this when we did the live stuff, and this is my wheelhouse. I tend to do this a lot, but the first episode, Stranger in a Strange Land. Second episode, Tribes of Tatooine. Stranger in a Strange Land is a reference to Moses.
Yes.
And Moses was the great uniter. He united the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
So, and we're clearly getting a story similar to that with Boba.
The question is, are the 12 tribes the other Tuskens in this matter, or are they the rest of the gangs? Yeah, exactly.
Like
that, the other crime lords.
That's what's fun about the title.
All right, let's start counting right now. I was just gonna throw out there. So for episode 2, the tribes of Tatooine would be considered the Tuskens, the Hutts, the Pikes, and then that biker gang which just says Tatooine on the
back. The Tatooine.
Yes. But I got a feeling. I feel like I feel like the biker gang somehow are still connected to the huts. Personally, I don't know
Yeah.
why.
I
And
think
even though the huts are
everything-
off.
I think
Well, everything
everything's
is
connected to the huts. Yeah.
Right,
Which
right.
let's get to the huts now then.
Okay.
So
All right, so back in
Favorite
the
part of
current
favorite part
timeline of the
episode, if
show.
I'm being honest.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
back in the current timeline,
I've gone
Yes.
back and watched that scene like 4 or 5 times.
it's amazing.
The
So
huts, the first huts we've gotten in any like speaking capacity in live
Yeah.
action, other than Jabba,
Yeah.
which was something that just completely blew me away when I first
Yeah.
learned about that after the episode, and I thought about it. And said,
Yeah.
oh my god, you're right.
We
I
do
love
see
seeing the twins.
Grala. We see, is it Grala, the
Gardula.
female hut? That's it, Gardula. Of course, Gardula, yes. In episode 1 as well.
Episode 1,
in the
freeze,
background,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's in
Yes,
the
that's
background.
it. Yeah,
Their
but
hut
nothing
movies hanging
speaking.
out.
Right.
I
Yeah,
love how
nobody
these two
says
are
anything.
introduced though. Like Boba and Fennec just returned to Garza, and Garza
Yeah.
is so surprised to even see they're alive, which is very interesting because like she's like, oh no, things are falling apart. But I love how she refers to them just as the twins, and like I
Yeah.
literally immediately looked at AJ and I'm like, what do they mean by the
Who are the
twins? And then
twins?
immediately just after, boom, boom.
Well, I was,
And it's
I
like,
was,
oh.
I was kind of like in the moment of a conversation when they specifically say the twins and related to the huts. So I missed the part about the huts in that conversation in the actual thing. So
Yeah.
I immediately was like, wait a minute, what are they talking about? The twins? But I missed the word huts. So when it was the huts making that corner, boom, just
Yeah.
mind blown.
Yeah.
It was kind of a cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
twins
hut
Twins
set.
on Tatooine. That's always
Yes.
a big thing. Twins on
It's-
Tatooine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
it's
actually crossed my mind. That did cross my mind. The use of twins again is
Yeah.
a big thing.
It's interesting that they just refer to it as the Hutts have decided to stake their claim, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, so 5 years after Jabba died, you guys just decided to show up. Like, I want to know really what motivated them to do that. Like, Boba
It took. I've got an easy
Like-
explanation. It took
like-
5 years for the pole bearers to actually walk across the
They
to
landed
get
5
there.
years ago.
It should have left 5 years ago.
There you go. That
Little
is
book.
exactly why. Those guys are selling it too. Like I loved like that like batch of actors that they had that
Oh,
were
yeah.
holding the
Guy in the
what
front,
did you
yeah,
refer to
watch-
it? What's that thing called? It's the
Yeah,
big raft thing.
What is it? Litter.
Litter,
yeah,
the
the litter,
litter.
yeah.
I had never heard that term before until
I've
you
learned-
mentioned it the
I've
other
learned
day, Matt,
so
and I was
many
like, "What do you mean a
terms
litter?"
through this show already.
But yeah, the stage thing they're holding is called a litter.
Yeah, litter.
I loved how much they were like selling that. Like the guys were just like, like, whew, like
Yes, yeah.
We're all getting
He
at
It's
it.
good.
looks like he's dying in front, and I love it.
Yeah.
it's good.
Apparently,
And
they
then
had cardboard cutouts of the huts on the litter.
Oh, they did.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
like
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Where would you see that? I was kind of curious whether or
That
not
was in
they.
the latest interview they had with Tem and
Oh, okay.
and
That
then that one.
interview's-
yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Um,
Okay.
I forget
floating
who it
around.
was with.
All right.
I'm trying to think of, but it was when he talks about Black Chrysanthemum in the interview too. He goes,
Right.
sad.
Yeah,
Santa.
I love it.
yeah.
So this is
Hmm.
when Black Chrysanthemum just appears. He
Just-
he
I
walks
loved his
around them,
introduction.
and there he is. And
Nobody expected that. I mean,
Wow.
we were all very
Congratulations, guys, on breaking that news a year ago.
yeah, thank you.
I'll stop milking that because I mean, it's just fun.
It's
just
our
fun.
only one, so it's
Yeah.
fun.
It's the only
Actually, I'll be honest. I watched that interview when you guys were talking about that leak, and it made me, a non-comic book, non-novel reader, interested in understanding what that character was. So I did delve a little bit into
did
that character by understanding it. So it was a bit of obviously the foreshadowing and the knowledge of that character would turn up. But how epic was that costume?
Oh, he
one.
looks
So
so
he
good.
looked so good,
Yeah.
so
So
terrifying. Like
expressive.
Yeah.
like
just- oh my goodness.
Yeah.
what do you think? When do you think the last time he saw Boba was? Because he doesn't appear in War of the Bounty Hunters, does he?
I don't think so. I don't
think so.
He,
no.
Yeah, he
I don't
didn't.
know.
So.
I don't know if he's been in Crimson Reign.
Right.
He worked
so,
with. He was in the recent. He was in Afra Comics recently.
Yeah, he usually
Um,
is.
But the last time we've seen him interact with Boba Fett was when they're tasked with
Finding out who
finding
Luke is.
Skywalker, finding Luke Skywalker, which is way back in A New Hope. So
So like
4 or
Okay.
5 years, no, 10 years actually.
my personal thought is that Black Chrysanthemum thought that Boba was dead, and he heard that the Hutts needed someone to go stake their claim on Tatooine because Boba Fett is there, and he's just like, Boba Fett, I have to go see this myself. And like that, and
Yeah.
like I don't think Black Chrysanthemum is there on behalf of the Hutts. He's just there for like he's like with the
He's there
job, and he's
because
like, yeah, sure. He just really wanted to see
Yeah.
Boba. And just to glare at him, not as a friend, but just to be like, okay, this guy's actually like alive still.
To prove that, okay,
So,
all right, that's
that's
interesting.
like
Everybody's
what I think.
Building Black Chrysanthemum to be either this guy who's gonna like turn heel or join up with Boba Fett. But I honest to God just think he's there because they were like, ooh, tough Wookiee from the comics. Let's bring him in. He looks scary.
Right.
He looks like a good person to like go against Boba Fett. And I think it's just going to be.
I don't know about that. I think there's very conscious choices to bringing in a character like that because they are going to stay true to whatever the comic background is with between him and Boba. And again, I don't know enough about the background relationship between him and
He's a pretty
Boba
strong
specifically.
silent type.
He doesn't really have many good relationships with people. I mean, even when he
What if
teams up
Boba
with
pays him
Afro,
more?
But okay, so asking from a non,
Might.
does he have a good relationship with Boba Fett though? Is the question.
not
Or
really.
you still not really? Is
It's
pure
a
outright?
relationship.
Is it okay? All right,
It's a
But
I'll
is it-
kill you if I have to kind of
Right.
relationship.
right.
AJ,
Is
does
there?
Boba have money? Because you just mentioned, what if Boba pays him more? Like, does Boba Fett even have like
He
money?
did until the Jawas took it out of his helmet.
IP.
No, I don't know. Like, did he
Yeah.
not inherit? But obviously, he didn't inherit the palace. He took it. But there must be money in the palace, right? What did
No.
Bib Fortuna have?
No. Oh no.
No?
No idea.
Dude.
No
Bib
idea.
Oh,
was just
I-
sitting there in like an abandoned palace. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's getting like paid by like the town and whatnot, and by
Yeah.
the
People
mayor. We
brought
haven't
him-
even talked about the
People brought him
mayor.
tributes. We'll get to
Yeah.
the mayor, who I think
Yeah.
is behind you in the window
Yeah, he is.
There he is.
Just chilling over there.
with a blaster.
Mak
What's his name?
Shaiz.
I love that.
Mak
name.
Shaiz.
I love that's not a
Shaiz.
cool name. That's
Yeah.
So, so we're talking about the mayor. So I love how they're just like, all right, let's go talk to the mayor. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, before we get to talking to the mayor, I love when they're in Jabba's palace. I love when they're in the palace talking to the Night Wind Assassin,
Boba's
and
palace.
Fennec's just like, all right, Rancor,
Yep.
and just like
Yep.
hits the lever, and then everyone thinks
Yeah.
we're gonna see something, and then it's nothing. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's good.
It is.
It's exactly what I needed.
My prediction was completely wrong on that situation in the end. I predicted, this whole thing about Moochie. I think I even did a whole video. But it also doesn't mean that a Rancor doesn't exist there. It could be a fake out. They could have faked it out with no Rancor. I still want to go back to this piece of art concept that they talked about a year ago with Boba Fett riding a Rancor in town. And if that still
That would be something.
holds, that could be a great, build up to a moment.
It could have been.
I
an
still think it's
invisible
possible.
Rancor.
Who knows? It's possible.
Oh.
It's possible. I agree.
About that.
Anyway, enough of that
I-
speculation.
Yeah, I think that when we've like mentioned that before, or thoughts about it in general, but I would love if a Rancor like does like appear in it, and I would love if it was Moochie because again, Boba looks like
Connectivity.
obviously looks like the
absolutely.
clones,
Okay.
and he looks
Yeah.
just like Wrecker, and so Moochie would
Yeah.
be like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
I know you, and
Yeah,
so
the
Moochie
scent-
would like
the scent
just
of a
be
clone.
chilling with them.
The
Yeah,
scent
Instead of a
like
clone.
Yeah,
The scent-
it'd be.
That sounds like
That's a
I don't know.
romance
I don't know
novel
what
I've
it's
ever heard of.
fan fiction.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, you could just sit there and start sniffing at Boba Fett and be like, "Yeah, you're cool." I think we just
We lost Jamie.
we lost Jamie.
Look at the stunned porg back there. That's gonna be our intro.
That's funny.
I'm
But-
sorry, you just gotta say something like the scent of a clone, and I'm done.
That's
Back
it.
to the mayor. Back to the mayor.
Yeah,
Hey,
It's kind of this is totally separate, but Matt, you'll get a kick out of this.
yeah.
We were watching The Simpsons last
Got me
night.
on Back to the Future, Jamie.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Every time, I'm sorry. Every time someone says the mayor, all I think of is Goldie Wilson saying,
Oh, that's funny.
Hey.
Yeah.
"Yeah, I could be me."
Oh
Uh-huh.
no.
Sorry.
Okay.
So we were
I got
watching
you.
another mayor last night. We were watching The Simpsons.
Yes.
When Mark Hamill's actually in the episode when he goes to the Comic-Con and Homer becomes
Yeah.
the bodyguard for the mayor.
Right.
And the mayor's
It's
going
great.
around collecting stuff and he's working with the mob. And I'm like, this is just like Book of Boba Fett. And like any mayor and crime
Just
lords.
any
That's
corrupt
funny.
mayor ever.
Right.
like,
Quimby,
I think-
Dorian.
I think the mayor is just Mayor Quimby. And he's just in limbo of like stuck between all these bad people. And I don't think he's actually a bad guy or anything. But
Like
Well-
the Hutt show up and they're like,
That's
"Pay
what I was
me,"
gonna
and he's
say.
like, "Oh, but Boba Fett's asking to pay me," and it's like,
Yeah.
come on, guys.
stuck in the middle.
I
Do
think
we-
that. I don't
sorry.
think he's a bad guy per se, but like I think that
Corrupt.
he's smart enough to know where to put his money and who requires that and whatnot. So like I don't think he's bad, but like your definition of bad might be different than like paying someone off in order to like save the town. Like that could be bad to someone, but like
bad.
He also just straight up like didn't hesitate to have the Nightwind assassin just killed. So
True.
Well, yes, but I also consider the fact that is Mayor Dodomo kind of like looking and gunning for the mayor's job, and it feels like this element there too is a possibility. And the mayor is oblivious. The mayor might have been doing the right thing. The mayor might have had that assassin killed because that is part of his, terms. It could go two ways. It's like, did he kill them to keep him silent, or did he kill him because that really is the rule and the law that this guy was acting outside of Hutt space or whatever, and it feels like Major Dodome, or Major Domo. I was I'm dyslexic. I put those. Yeah.
It's okay.
Not his actual name.
That's just like the term of
no,
like
for sure.
what he is.
Correct.
We don't know what his name is.
Yeah, it's named in the credits. I think I can't remember specifically, but is he gunning for the jobs? And then suddenly it's like, wait a minute, all the Twi'leks are the ones that are in a position now of power on Tatooine. Yeah. Are they all kind of, we've seen a lot of Twi'leks. It's like, with what's her name in her little area, are they all kind of working together? Are they kind of doing a Twi'lek uprising? They've been slaves all these generations. It's like, it'd be kind of, as a side element, it hit me like this week, and I was going, there is an awful lot of Twi'leks that are in this episode, on this planet, and in position of power. And it seems like that our actual mayor might very well just be a puppet or someone who's oblivious to the outside goings of what's going on. We'll see how that plays out.
It might be a pipe dream about that. I like that theory a lot. But what if Bib Fortuna was in on it too? Because he was also a Twi'lek.
That's where, that was the other thing. That's it.
Boba
Yes.
Mad that Boba blew it. I mean,
that's a
I
good
always
theory.
look at the mayor, right? This guy who's been working with the Hutts for forever. For how long?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like Jabba the Hutt's dead. This new bounty hunter is coming in. And he's like, now I'm
That's it. That's it.
I'm
Like,
Boba Fett.
what are you doing, dude? Like the twins are now asking me to pay them. Of course, I'm going to work with them. I'm not gonna entertain this like random bounty hunter who comes in and is like, I'm Major Doe. I'm Dino now.
That's
Go
it.
away. Like, leave me alone. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think that's probably it. I think that the mayor is very smart, and he's just trying to figure out what the heck Boba's trying to do, because it's still not clear that Boba even knows what he's trying to do.
No,
that's it. Yeah, it is. It is a bit confusing as to, but I think we'll find that out in whatever the backstory is, because there's a purpose that he's now there doing what he's doing, and we just haven't caught up with the backstory element of why he's doing this.
Which,
all right, you want to flip over to the backstory?
We'll get to the backstory. Let's get to that. Which this was the meat of the episode.
Yeah.
With Boba now has respect with the Tusken Raiders, and he's training with the gaffy stick with the
Tusken warrior played by stunt woman Joanna Bennett, who was like Captain Marvel's double, a few other Marvel
Super
doubles,
badass.
and she was in Aquaman, and she's incredible, and I love her.
And out of nowhere, on the horizon, we hear what sounds like a crate dragon.
It's clearly a crate dragon. And
the horn sounds like it. I love Matt's theory that
it has to be the horn.
I
like
think
that.
it's a horn.
I
think
it's definitely a horn. Yeah,
and they're using it to scare Tuskens off because they saw Obi-Wan do it, and it worked. And they're like, well, let's
that's it.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like
it's a deterrent to keep people away from something that you want to secretly and quietly pass through the desert.
And,
meanwhile, everyone looks instead of running away.
That's it.
No offense to the Tuskens, but how are they going to really tell the difference between a crate dragon and a train that looks exactly like a crate dragon, but with a giant engine on his head?
Yeah.
I love how the Tuskens call it the long speeder.
The long speeder.
Yes.
And then Boba's
which
just
means
like, it's a train.
Right, which means that they've also seen it before, which is interesting. It goes to that element too. And also, one of the point that we just, to point out, Pikes are really good shots from a long distance.
Seriously,
We learned that. That's a new one.
They didn't even. The Tuskens didn't even do anything. They're just sitting there.
Well, they're intimidated. They're intimidated by them.
Yeah.
By
I
the
know, but I
Tuskens,
mean, like,
the Tuskens
the
were
Pikes just
literally
start
just
shooting
sitting
them.
there. The Pikes
Yeah.
blow the crate dragon horn. They start barreling across the desert, and then they just start shooting
probably-
randomly.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
They have a
"Whoa."
they have a stereotype against Tusken Raiders
Yeah.
that they're violent, so they're scared
Yes.
of them, I guess.
And then I guess, well, yes. So like later on, like the one Pike that does speak says, "Hey, we were just protecting our train," and
Yeah.
it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
But the train, I love
Great.
I
So
love
cool.
trains. Okay,
Yep.
I've gushed about it for forever. But like this sequence was just so cool seeing
Yeah.
it like the multiple times, and we haven't really seen a train like this in Star Wars. Like we've seen the
Solo
Convex train
is the
in Solo
closest
with,
thing.
Like, the
They,
two parts. It looks like the
yes.
monorail, and then there's the few in like the Clone Wars, like the mass transit system on Coruscant, and I forget what that other planet was, but like the underground like mining one. And
Yes,
that
yeah.
was like.
In
It
Clone
was like
Wars.
through like a system like instead, but we haven't seen
Yeah.
one that's literally like a maglev train
Yeah.
without a track.
Yeah.
I know.
like
Yeah.
this is
A
just
hover
very
train
very
makes
cool.
sense.
Can I actually say that it's the most obvious thing we should be seeing in a Western story, but
Exactly.
it still blew my mind when we were
Yes.
watching this train for the first time crossing the desert. It just blew my mind. It was like, oh my god, we are
Yes.
getting the train heist.
Something
It
Yeah.
was
right?
so good.
something
Yeah.
that never gets old in film or TV is a fight on top of a train.
Good old
Yeah.
times.
Old
Oh, yeah.
West, James Bond,
Yeah.
Solo, like it's always
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's always so fun.
Yeah.
Always got to have a train somewhere.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
before they go take down that train, there's my favorite scene. Literally top 10, one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars. I'm not ashamed to say it at all. When Boba trains the Tusken Raiders how to use speeders, and we get
Yes,
like a bantha, like a bantha.
it's so good.
Like a band.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be
That's
my
it.
takeaway from this show. Like a
I,
bantha.
yeah.
I
Something
love how
crazy is gonna happen, but that's gonna be my takeaway still.
I love how he says the worst thing, like a bantha, and like they
Yeah.
all just stare at him, and
They're
he's
all
like,
like,
no, maybe not. All right,
Yep.
cool. He like
Yeah,
really does the
yes.
full. All right,
Yep.
that didn't land.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That was
Yeah.
genius comedy, but also just,
Absolutely.
like, cool to see the progression of.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
a classic
See Boba as
montage
a
of
yeah.
training.
Humanized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very human Boba moment. Sitting in a speeder with a big dopey smile on his face, going, "Hey."
Yeah.
And he
It's
always
like a
he
bantha.
looks funny without the eyebrows smiling.
He
It's
does.
just-
It's so good.
yeah,
Yeah,
eyebrowless
yes,
Boba
yeah.
is
There's
funny
so
looking.
much comedy to be mined out of eyebrowless Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope
yes.
that's not the last
For
we've
sure.
seen of that.
Oh,
And
same. Yeah.
I sort of skipped over a cool Easter egg of Tashi Station
Yep.
and
To
uh,
get
Oh,
the
yeah.
speeders,
Fixer and
yeah.
Cammy
Yes,
there.
yeah.
Fixer,
Yeah.
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 Which is I love how they just like slid them in like enough. It's enough of a detail
Yeah.
that like if you had never known the A New Hope,
Yep.
if
They're
you
just
never
another
knew
couple
of
of
the A New
people.
Hope deleted scenes.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
just like, oh well, here we are. But I think AJ, you mentioned this the other day, how it really goes to show how life on Tatooine, like Luke says, I'm going nowhere.
Yeah.
His friends are still
Went nowhere.
just
Yeah.
there in the
Yeah,
same
that's
spot
it.
they are every
Yeah.
week. It's like if you go to like your hometown
Yeah.
and there's just like that handful of people that
That's
are
it.
still there at the local
Yeah.
bar, just
Norm,
like
Yep.
Cammy.
So-
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
it's the same deal. And
Yeah.
and the silly little biker gang, like I loved them. Like
Yeah.
they were so Mad Max in like a good way. Like it was great. It was
So
just enough.
the big question is, did Luke want to go to the Tashi station to pick up some power converters? Because power converters is actually a drink, an alcoholic
Yeah.
beverage. And
I
I
love
think
that.
I think it was great.
Yeah, and Uncle
It
Owen had
came-
no idea.
Yes, that's it. Yes. yes.
Uncle Owen's like, these kids.
We don't know
These
the drinking
kids are
age on
these kids
Tatooine.
are their power converters. It's
Hanging out
like
at the Tashi
that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a
Clean those
drink
droids.
in
For
the?
sure.
Is that a drink on Batu? There's something like that.
There's
How
one that's
could
like,
it- oh, wait.
there's like the photon fizzle, if I remember
Okay.
correctly.
I gotta
But
do
I
my
don't.
research. But
Yeah.
that would be funny. If
There
if
might
it
be a
was.
proton.
There should be. There should be.
Confirmed.
I
There
wa-
will be.
I want to get a power converter right now. Thank you.
We'll
Yeah.
come up with
Rick.
some mixed drink and we'll come up with it.
That's it.
So that brought us to the training scene, and then they go take down the train, which we get once they do take it down. It's this very in the concept art. It was very Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
That was-
absolutely.
that was so
Yeah,
good.
Don't
the-
get me
like,
started on that.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the
Go.
same kind of story, right?
Yep.
T.E.
Oh
Warren,
yeah. Exactly.
in real
yeah.
life, attempted to unite the various tribes of
Yeah.
the Arabian Peninsula. He did not succeed, but
Yeah.
he tried. He really tried.
And the
Go ahead.
the again, you've got this annoying thing where there is a lot of people out there going, "Well, we've seen this before." It's like, yes, everything you watch, you have seen before because it is based off of something historical. It's based off of old films that have been done 10 times before. so what? This is just another cool way to tell that story or show that visual. And this is the kind of story that you want to have that happen. If this sort of storytelling didn't happen in a Western-based sci-fi movie or series, then we would be completely lost and say it's terrible.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
That's
who wouldn't want to see, Lawrence of Arabia, but instead of, Laurence Olivier, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah,
that's all
it.
I'm saying.
Take the best parts of Lawrence of Arabia, because that's like a 4-hour-long movie. So take the best parts of Lawrence of Arabia and just like shove it in something mainstream here.
It's an 8-hour show.
So
that's
good,
it. Yeah.
That's it.
Double it, make it exactly. Yeah.
But
chop it into 8 pieces.
You done?
Package it, sell it.
Couple of huts, you done.
Merchandise.
I don't wanna skip over that awesome engineer droid.
Yes.
Spider
I
his
love
way
this
away.
guy.
Yeah. Yes.
He was so on task, and literally the moment that I love how his function is the moment that if the train gets attacked, you just haul ass, like that is it. You just go for it.
I'd love to see him in the cantina just looking at Boba like, oops, and he's somewhere up there.
It just goes to another personality of a droid, and even though we only see him for a few seconds, it's like this droid has a programmed personality of gun it and create as much havoc as possible. It has a purpose. It has a position. They could have just as easily put a person or a character in charge, a live action creature in charge. Yeah. But the idea of having a droid that will just do its job and not care about the fact it's going to put everybody's lives in danger if it,
just jump out the window. And
that's it. That's it. Yeah, it saves itself too, which is cool.
Yeah. I love the effects on the droid too when he's practical and you see, and it's clear. It's very obvious that all of his arms are like on strings.
Yeah,
and they're just kind of like.
Boom.
But I love that is like one of my favorite looks from like Jabba's palace because you see like the Bomar monks in the background, and you can tell their spider legs are like on strings, and I love that look to it. I don't know why I love that, but I really love that. Like,
it's the frame rate of what is more real and all that, and it goes back to the Tauntauns on Empire Strikes Back, the way they frame them across the across the snowplows, and you see that janky movement.
It has a charm to it.
It has a charm to it, and then you see stuff like the huts that are full CGI, and people are complaining about that. But the huts are just another version of that little Tauntaun being moved bit by bit in a very different way. And so it's just the way the technology is. I'm fine with CGI huts on top of at this point.
I think that it looks great.
I thought it looked amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, I jumped back, but
no, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So the train gets stopped, and they all ascend on the train and whatnot. And the Pikes, we see them unmasked in live action for the first time, which is very cool to see because like we have the live action Pikes in Solo, but actually seeing them unmasked is just like very cool. And like I like the idea that there are different variations of Pikes because like people are just like, oh, they don't look the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Come on.
Dooku doesn't look like he's supposed to in Clone Wars, guys. He's 90% nose in that show. You're going to tell me?
Personally, I love the design of the Clone Wars overall, but I also kind of look at that as like the hierarchy of, if you were to go to the Pike homeworld or wherever they were there, that's an equivalent to, the highest up leaders and stuff like that. The headdresses change, the form of everything, and that's all it was just that is a shape of a headdress around that particular face. So I'm completely fine now, as long as we do eventually get to see the Pikes on the homeworld and actually see this headdress. Because I still love that big ass. It's like Princess Queen Amidala's costume.
Have you ever seen the real life Suleiman the Magnificent?
I haven't.
He was this ruler from Turkey, and he has this turban that's the size of his head. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And that's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Bigger heads.
Their headdresses or their headpieces, and
I love how it gives us everything we need to know about the Pikes as well. Like just in case for some reason you hadn't watched Solo, so it's just like oh these people, Boba trying to be like all right, you're gonna tell me everything right now, and he's just like just playing dumb.
Yes.
Like is. But I've been yelling about this for the past like 2 weeks or so, right? The music. So you guys know where this is going.
Yeah.
And so in the background of this scene, Boba's new like theme song, there's like a higher like variation of it played because he straight up like lets the Pikes go and tells them you're gonna leave, you're gonna walk single file, you're gonna do as the Tuskens do here, and they won't bother you, which is very cool that that's there. But Boba's variation in the background with the music, it's a little higher. But let me explain in case you haven't caught up with what I'm talking about here. Boba's theme, which is the end credits song, it is an inverse of Omega's theme from the Bad Batch. I am fully convinced. Like it is. Like I can't get it out of my head. I've talked about it at great length like on social media, so like I won't like bother you with like the song here, but I implore you, listen to Omega's theme and then listen to Boba Fett's theme from Book of Boba Fett. They match up. And that's all I'm going to say about it in the podcast.
And I'm going to say a week ago, I thought you were crazy at the time. And then when this episode of episode 2 popped up, I heard it, and I even specifically in my reaction video went, oh my God, that's like 10 seconds of Omega's theme in there.
Yes.
And it's not an homage, it's not a pre-site, it is a connection of they are more or less the same character. This is where there's this element of the what we see in Omega of her being able to wanting to help people and stuff like that. A connection rather than a foresighting is
right. And like I think that like prediction wise, like I would love for her to show up in the show like as an adult, but I think that enough seeds have been planted to show that Boba and Omega have met at some point.
Yeah, it's not even a tribute, more a comparison. It's a comparison to what Omega goes through and thinks and feels, because it's also the actual conversation at that point in time is that he's letting the Pikes go.
Yeah, he's giving them that chance.
And there's giving them that chance, and that's what Omega does. She wants to give everybody a chance, and it definitely runs,
Not gonna lie, guys. If Omega like does show up in the show, I'm probably gonna pass out, and you're not gonna hear.
I still have my theory about Omega is actually really the armorer, and she's that under the helmet. I mean, I don't know.
That's reaching for the
stretching.
stars there.
Reaching for the stars,
really?
Brent.
Why?
I like it. But
why? Think about it. If she's going to go into hiding from everybody around her and post Bad Batch, what a way to go into hiding, but to actually have a mask that you never take off.
Brent's theories are my favorite theories. He's not. He puts everything on the
I'm
table.
I'm not always right, but
if you like hearing Brent and Jamie talk about music, stay tuned for a future Age of Grogu show, right?
Yes.
Talking about some score and stuff, right?
Yes, yeah.
So there's a plug there.
Stay tuned on social media for that.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one.
To conclude this episode, let's get into Boba being inducted as a Tuscan, I want to call it. I don't know if that's the proper way, but he gets his robes. He's finally out of his gross, smelly Return of the Jedi jumpsuit.
Yeah, jumpsuit, yeah.
And he gets to he snorts the lizard, goes on that weird journey, which, Brent, you had another great point about comparing it to a Jedi searching for a kyber crystal. Yes,
yeah. I mean, you consider the fact that the young Jedi, the younglings are sent off to Elam to, find their kyber crystal. Actually, it's technically their kyber crystal seeks them out as a Jedi as to who they want to pair with. And the same purpose immediately clicked to me is like, this is the way a Sam person goes off to and uses, and the idea of the Force is used for other cultures. We see this, and again, I said this before in other things, but we see it in the Ewok movies. Chief Logray, the medicine man, uses magic and part of the thing. We see it from the Night Sisters in the Clone Wars. We see it by the other race when Jar Jar Binks teams up with Mace Windu in season 6 of the Clone Wars. I forgot the name of the race, the queen that they go to save, but her race has got this whole... Yeah, that's it. And there's all these elements, and it goes back to a conversation that Dave Filoni, said about the Ewok movies. Magic in Star Wars universe is just another culture's way of explaining what the Force is, and we don't have to say this is a Jedi and this is a Sith every time we want to see a Force wielding story arc. We should be seeing these fantastic stories about how does a culture deal with the intake and the understanding of the Force itself, and how does that change and be different from a Jedi or a Sith. And we're starting to see that, and that makes for a much more spiritual journey on anything Star Wars related. And people want to say they want to see a Jedi in every episode, and there are other people saying we don't want to see the Jedi or the Sith. Keep something spiritual that is in that new story you're telling, and you've got an element of the Force that exists there, and without it being a Sith or a Jedi. I think that's a great way to continue these stories and keep, that element alive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, seeing the Force through a non-Jedi or Sith's eyes is super interesting. I know Matt's. I mean, all of our favorite thing. I always say Matt's favorite thing is the Force, but in Star Wars,
me too. Yeah, me too.
Star Wars is sort of the Force, so
right. Yeah,
it's everything, as we've come to learn. And, I mean, even the night. I mean, when you were going on explanation there, I think like the Knights of Ren. They even are kind of like what do they call it? Touched by the shadow or something.
Yep.
Something like that. But that's still
they have
the Force.
I know, but I like that there's different. Like, magic, touched by the shadow, the Force.
Yes,
I like how there's different explanations of it, but at the end of the day, it is all the Force.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. And again, it's great that we're getting that. We're getting this again. It's a spiritual element. It goes back to the core nature of who we are as people. We have a spiritual or a religious or understanding of whether you believe it, whether you don't. It's taken into account, and it is another way of telling it. Getting that piece of wood from his gaffy stick was no different than a youngling getting their kyber crystal. That's the way the Sand People get to deal with that variation of I guess going into manhood or going into rite of passage. Exactly. And so,
then the whole montage from there of him building the gaffy
process.
It's just like
yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but it made me want to go build one somehow.
Oh yeah, again my reaction video. I think I said I want to build a gaffy stick now like this.
I'm glad that they tossed it in there, because one thing that I kept that I was so fixated on was why the gaffy sticks made metal sounding noises when they clashed earlier in the episodes, because I'm like, they're wood, what's happening? And it's like no, they're plated with metal, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's just this makes sense now.
Cool. Yeah, I do have a question for you all. Do we think this is the last time we'll see the Daniel Logan flashback stuff? I know we'll still see flashbacks, but do we think we'll ever see Boba Fett as a child as in a flashback again from this point of time onwards?
I think we'll still see some things.
Yeah, I've always kind of, since we saw the first flashback and we saw Camino, and now we saw interior of Camino through the window, with the deepfake stuff in play, I wouldn't be surprised if we see behind Daniel Logan or behind Boba's head as a kid talking to Tem as Jango, like some sort of flashback like that. That would you have Tem.
Okay.
You could de-age him, give him hair.
Yeah, we could.
Like,
we could
look cool.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
God, I'm gonna pass
with some inspirational words or something. I don't know.
What if we see other clones? I'm not gonna be okay.
Don't.
Yeah,
God, we could be here forever if we.
Especially yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
we'll talk about it if they show up.
Where I was going with it, in the sense of the story, I personally don't think we will, because at that moment in time, that's when Boba Fett is also let go of being the childhood that he was stuck within. So I don't know if we'll necessarily see a flashback to him being a child again, because that part of the journey has now gone into, he's now accepted this new reality and his new position and his new thing. Unless the story serves that they need to go back to that point, I don't know if we'll necessarily see that again.
True.
The way it is now, they could leave it with the way it is.
Rite of passage is in the flashback, and we kind of see him having the back to dreams in the current timeline. So
Correct. Yes.
We'll see.
Right. Yeah.
True.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
Right?
I like that. So these two episodes, especially Chapter 2, was mind blowing. Like this was
Yeah.
Chapter 2 is one of my favorite things we've gotten so far from like the Disney Plus era, the television shows, anything like that.
Absolutely.
It's definitely up there.
Unbelievable.
For sure.
I think that one important last note here in the whole Boba's Spice Dream process there is seeing Django in the past, and then like seeing that like that's what he was always like supposed to be. That's what he always thought he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then by finding the branch and by finding essentially this family with the Tuskens, that's kind of what it's shaping up to be. Is it's really a chance to do something different and do something as himself, and not necessarily this premeditated, I have to be a bounty hunter because my father was a bounty hunter. And we'll see where that takes him from there, because something is obviously going to pull him back.
Yeah. That was the one thing for me in the Clone Wars animated series. They did 5 episodes with Boba Fett appearing, and in every episode he was obviously trying to find a new family. It didn't even click to me that was the purpose. I felt like that character was almost wasted in the series until now, and this actual episode of part 2 kind of completely changes my whole perspective of that this is what he's been chasing for. He's been chasing for a family since he lost his father, and it didn't even click. And again, it's like it's how they do so well in progressing a character story. And so it makes much more pivotal sense when I go back and watch the Clone Wars episodes of Boba Fett in them as to why and his journey makes much more sense to me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm pumped for chapter 3 and the rest of the show.
Yeah.
And where it's going to go from here. So.
Yeah.
Well, all right. We talked a lot. This is a long episode, but whatever.
That's cool.
It's all good. We are all very excited for Book of Boba Fett and for where it's going to go from here. I want to thank you, Brent. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
On our show
pleasure.
Today.
Thanks for having me.
Where can our listeners find you on social media as well if they're not following you?
I'm on Age of Grogu or at Age of Grogu. I'm also on Twitter at Brent Age of Grogu. It's one of those two. I always get those two mixed up. But yeah, come check out. We usually do a podcast live podcast every Sunday at 1 p.m. West Coast time. And then we'll do reaction videos, and once in a while we'll do an unboxing or miniature model build or something like that. Usually I'm playing around with stuff like that. I like to tinker and model with my collection. So yeah, cool. It's really cool stuff, and we're frequently always like popping it on Brent stuff as well if you guys are worried if yes.
I'm not there. Anyway, thank you so much, Brent. Thank you so much, AJ and Matt. This has been the HoloNet Marauders podcast. You can find us everywhere at HoloNet Marauders, and we'll see you next time.
Yay.